Mohammed bin Salman, often referred to as MBS, telling the US magazine he believes Israelis have the right to have their own land. That's a first for an Arab leader. The reformist prince also saying Iran's supreme leader makes Hitler look good. For more on this, I'm now joined from the UK by Simon Mabon, lecturer at Lancaster University. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. So what's your reaction then to these comments by MBS about Israel? What do you think we should be reading into them?
I don't think it's anything particularly surprising, the interview that he's given with The Atlantic. It's nothing really new, although the one part of it that really is new and a first for any Arab leader is this recognition of the right for a sort of a Jewish home, a Jewish national state, the state of Israel, to exist, and the right for that to do so. That's a big deal. But I guess if you put it within the context of everything else that's been happening, this burgeoning rapprochement with the Israelis, kind of facilitated by the US, but certainly concerning this new type of alignment across the Middle East, we see that it's hardly surprising. There have been a lot of nods towards this. There's been a real series of moves that have got to this point. So it's not particularly surprising at all, to be honest.
Could you remind us then, you talk about a burgeoning rapprochement, some nods. Could you give us some examples then of what has been leading up to this moment?
So I think there are a number of things at play. I mean, the first is obviously this shared sense of concern between the Israelis and the Saudis about Iran and Iranian manipulation and interference, and the perception of an Iranian nuclear program and the impact that would have across the region. The Israelis and the Saudis are particularly concerned about the support that Iran gives to proxy groups such as Hezbollah, the Lebanese Party of God, to Hamas, the support to Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And the Israelis, they are really concerned about this, having recently fought a war with Hezbollah in the summer of 2006. The Saudis have long had a rivalry with the Iranians dating back to 1979 and the Iranian Revolution. So the two appear to have started moving closer together, given those shared security concerns. But I think it goes deeper than that. There's also this sense of a coming together economically, a coming together in terms of how the region could be organized. And that, of course, has been facilitated by the Trump administration. And we see it really taking pace and gathering speed in the past year since Trump has come to power.
And how much further do you think it might go, this rapprochement?
Well, I think it would be difficult to really have a formal recognition of the state of Israel in Saudi, because although the Saudi regime is working with Israel and they're happy to have this rapprochement, what's interesting to note is that general public opinion in Saudi and indeed in other Arab Gulf states is very pro-Palestinian and not necessarily pro-rapprochement with Israel. And a number of public opinion surveys have been done that reflect this view. So I think that if there is that formal recognition and real closer ties, the opening of embassies, etc., then that could lead to domestic unrest. So I think we'll see it sort of holding just short of that formal recognition, but moving closer and closer towards it, deepening cooperation, not only in terms of security, but also in terms of economic interests and rising trade between the two states.
Now, the Atlantic journalist who interviewed MBS, he says in his article, the Saudis, like many Arab leaders, have tired of the Palestinians. Is that really the case, and why?
Well, I think that's a pretty damning reflection of what's going on. If you look at events across the 20th and 21st century in the Middle East, the Palestinian issue has been kicked around by external actors who wanted to use it to gain and to increase their political capital. And I think what he's referring to when he's saying that he's tiring and other states have grown tired is that lack of ability to exert influence and to control the actions of people in Hamas, let's say, and the proximity of Hamas to Iran historically. And I think that it's more about that exerting influence rather than anything else, because we saw that a couple of months ago, the Palestinian Authority president, Mahmoud Abbas, was summoned to Riyadh, where he was presented with a plan by MBS and his colleagues saying that this is what we need to do to work toward peace with Israel. Now, that is something that no Palestinian leader could ever have taken back and argued for. And so it was rejected out of hand. And that's the sort of thing that I think that MBS is referring to when he's saying that many states are growing tired with the Palestinians. Now, they perhaps want a swifter resolution to this than the Palestinians themselves do, because, of course, we've seen what's happened. We've seen the conditions in Gaza. We've seen that there's almost 2 million people living in Gaza in a very small area, roughly the size of Las Vegas. And it's an open air prison with the inability to move and to travel freely. So, of course, the Palestinians are going to be incredibly reluctant to give that up without actually having a number of serious assurances about their future. And, of course, this is perhaps not necessarily what the Saudis want.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for your time and your analysis. That was Simon Mabon joining us from Lancaster University.